Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, back with yet another Snyder Cut breakdown, working our way through all the characters that are going to be different from theatrical to the Snyder Cut coming to HBO Max. Joined, as always, by Hannah Saulic. Hi, Hannah. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm better than Henry Cavill was when he had to do all these terrible reshoots for Justice League in 2017.
Hey, listen, there's a book you can read called Release the Snyder Cut that dives into the amount of work that got done on Henry Cavill's face and the negotiations between the Mission Impossible Fallout team and the Warner Brothers team to almost remove the mustache from Henry Cavill's face. But that's neither here nor there, Hannah. We're not here to plug books.
Oh, we're not?
Books are knowledge, and knowledge is power. And I am... No, what am I? What was I saying?
We're here to talk about Superman.
Yes, Superman.
So Superman is the last of the Justice League characters that we have yet to do in our series.
Well, I know we say like with every character, like they were the most butchered, but like Superman, I think Henry Cavill did the most work in reshoots, or at least like the most of his scenes were reshot because he wasn't really in the first half of the movie anyway. So got a lot to talk about.
Right, exactly. So right off the bat, like it's 55 seconds into the movie when you see the butchery that took place on his face. The swollen cheek that looked like poor Superman was in the middle of oral surgery when he had to
got his
jump up
teeth out. It's fine.
Film his scenes. But yeah, I mean, instead of, building off of him being deceased, Joss decided he was going to shoot a... Can we talk about that scene? Let's talk about that scene.
Yes, let's just go ahead and dive in and do our first section where we get to rip on everything that happened in Justice League.
Good Lord. That scene is so bad. And not only is it really bad from a production standpoint, but it makes no sense in the grand scheme of anything that's happening. Like, Superman had died in BVS. Mm-hmm. We start off Justice League with Superman being alive and being interviewed by two kids for their podcast, because that's what kids are doing nowadays, podcasting. And Superman says, okay, fine, I'm willing to do an interview with you kids. What would you like to ask me? Have you ever fought a hippo? Like, that's the question that he gets asked by these kids.
Did you ever fight a hippo?
First off, if that's your laugh line, you've failed. And then it ends with...
What's the best thing about planet Earth?
I was like, oh, all right, well, this is a chance for Henry, like, he's going to give this really great, eloquent speech about, how his adopted home world has really, he's taken to it kind of thing. And instead he cuts off, he doesn't get to answer. And I was like, well, all right, that'll pay off later on in the film. Like, it'll be relevant. And it just never pays off. So Hannah, what is the point of that scene?
I don't know. And the thing that I hate about that scene is the whole...
A man I knew used to say that hope was like your car keys.
But I feel like Joss almost just or Warner Brothers, I don't know whose decision that was, just wanted to be like, hey guys, remember Superman?
Ever hear of Superman?
Superman is dead.
Right.
It's like they had to remind the audience as if no one knew.
I can hardly read the news anyway.
You could go from that scene right into the montage of him being dead.
What's the best thing about planet Earth?
But instead, they sandwich in that awkward Batman sequence where, again, the Mindhunter criminal, whose name I still haven't remembered from last week, has to go around and be like,
It's because they know he's dead, right? Superman.
Yeah.
Superman. Yeah, no, buddy, we get it. Totally. We're all on board with everything you're trying to do here. We've seen the other two movies multiple times before coming to this.
Also, even if you haven't, you could gather through context clues of that entire opening montage.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's a weird first step.
It's the first intro into all of the terrible dialogue that Henry Cavill was given in Justice League.
Oh yeah, okay.
All of these just overly cheesy.
I believe in truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice.
There is one cool moment in the final fight where Steppenwolf is swinging towards Superman, and he kind of in really slow motion just watches the fist go by.
Yeah.
I like representations of Superman's power on screen. And that is, to give credit where credit is due, that is a pretty cool way to show him. But the way that he's used in the final fight is really... There's a moment that tries to mirror a bit of what we saw in BVS, where in the middle of the Doomsday battle, when all hell is just breaking loose, Superman hears Lois, and she's underwater, and he breaks away from the battle and goes to rescue her. And something like that almost happens in this movie, too, where he hears the Russian family, or strangers, you know, who are theoretically in danger, and he has to go race the Flash in order to rescue them. And again, it's handled so poorly. It's just... These are good examples of things that you want to see happen, but they're all handled so poorly in theatrical cut. And yes, Superman absolutely suffers the brunt of it, because I would assume everything that we're going to get to see in Zack's version is longer, more relevant to the rebirth of the character. And these 3 movies are legitimately supposed to be an arc for Superman. Like, everything that started in Man of Steel and funneled through BVS is supposed to come to a conclusion in Justice League. And we suspect that it's going to.
Yeah, and just the potential for what we know Zack is capable of doing with this character versus what we saw in Justice League, I think is why what we saw in Josstice League was so disappointing.
It goes back to the Ultimate Edition of BVS also, where multiple scenes of Clark Kent and Superman were added back in, or at least motivation and backstory were given to those characters to show that these are parts of the reasons of why he doesn't trust Bruce Wayne, or why he's suspicious of the Batman kind of thing. And I think a lot of that stuff is going to get added back into Henry, because there's a huge chunk that I believe is going to get filled in by Zack Snyder, which is everything that happens from the time that Superman is resurrected till the time that he agrees to join the League. I think that there's a lot of stuff that is going to happen there, which would include a return to the scout ship in order to retrieve the black and silver suit. We did see a scene of him going to speak with Alfred, played by Jeremy Irons, which is going to be really important and fall into that realm as well too. The return to the Kent farm, significant.
Yes.
And in that moment, that's where I think we're going to see the Jonathan Kent scene yet again, because we recently asked Kevin Costner during the junket for his Let Him Go movie whether he's going to be back in the 3rd Snyder DC movie, and he basically gave a line of just like,
I don't know, you don't want to be kissing and telling in life, and you don't want to know stuff, and you're like poking me a little bit. I'm not.
It was either that
I can't tell you.
That's a yes without saying yes. So all these things we expect to be put back in, and they were all chopped out of Justice League, essentially.
So let's talk about Superman's return and resurrection, because I think there's a lot to dissect there. And a lot of what we saw in Justice League looks very, very similar to what we think the resurrection scene will look like. But in Zack's version, it's supposed to be more epic and on a larger scale.
Surprise, surprise. And will also, he immediately deflates the idea. And again, he hasn't seen Justice League, according to him. But the idea that Lois Lane, I know. I'm going on record as saying I don't believe that. But the idea that Lois Lane was Bruce Wayne's secret weapon, you know, that he would eventually bring her out, and that would be what brings Superman back down to reality kind of thing. But Zack has included the shot of Lois essentially seeing Superman flying high above the sky. So that's going to play out differently as well, too. So we'll have to answer in Justice League, in HBO Max's Justice League, where Bruce is during the Heroes Park fight, because he's not part of it from everything that we've seen. We talked about, you and I, about how there will be extensions of some of the fight, because there's a sequence where there's a tank that's being thrown in the direction of the police officer who's played by the original Jimmy Olsen, and it's blocked by Cyborg. And so that signifies a much larger battle, which again is what I would assume. You know, if Zack is going through the trouble of resurrecting Superman and having him go through this point where he's going to take on the League, you're going to see it.
It's not going to be one lone police officer just hanging out.
Or Cyborg awkwardly, you know, trying to resist the programming of his software. Like, all that stuff is not going to play.
So let's talk about that, because I read something interesting that kind of alluded to the fact that the reason that Cyborg's suit reacts to Superman in that way is because he has seen in a nightmare sequence similar to Bruce Wayne that Superman is this threat. So there's actual motivation there, and it's not just some random, you know, oh, my gear's acting up kind of moment.
What are you doing? Victor! It's my armor's defense system.
No.
It's stronger since the interface. I can't control it.
There could be some truth behind that, because there are a lot of scenes to play out with Cyborg that we haven't yet seen also. And in the most recent trailer that Zack reposted, he did include additional scenes of Ray Fisher's Cyborg. So there are multiple opportunities where Cyborg will get an opportunity to interact with the Mother Box and potentially be exposed to a lot of the knowledge that it would contain. And you're right, the fact that his origin story is tied closely to the Mother Box. So it's possible that he could experience one of the nightmare sequences sort of triggered by the Mother Box and show him that Superman eventually does become a threat. The other option that I've heard, or at least a rumor that I've heard, is that Cyborg will experience his nightmare much later in the movie, at a time when he's trying to pull the Mother Boxes apart in the finale, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. The way that the sequence is almost played out in the most recent trailer that Zack shared was, I kind of think the football sequences are going to be almost like flashbacks that Victor's having while he watches the kids play football. But that would mean that the nightmare sequence could take place absolutely during the Star Lab scenes when he watches his father pass away. And so, yeah, that would lead a lot of credence to the notion that potentially he's reacting to Superman because Superman's coming across as a threat.
And that could make the whole dynamic of the team really interesting, because we know that there's going to be some kind of division between, who thinks it's a good idea to bring Superman back, who doesn't. But it sounds like when Superman actually comes back, it's going to be a little bit more complex.
Oh, yeah. And I do think that that's one of the things that it sounds like Zack would lean into, which is the confusion that Superman would almost feel having been resurrected. It almost feels to me that the line that Joss clearly wrote, which is,
"You won't let me live. You won't let me die."
That theme was at least relevant in the stuff that Zack is going to explore.
Yeah.
Because here you do have this really significant sacrifice that Superman does at the end of BVS. He says goodbye to Lois Lane. He's essentially like realizing the only thing that's going to stop this monster from destroying the planet is me, that I have to sort of sacrifice myself in order to get there. He shouldn't just wake up and be like, oh, cool, I'm back. Like it should be a prolonged almost. And this is where I kind of think after fighting the League, it won't be the introduction of Lois Lane that brings him back, but it will be a trip back to almost like full circle through the Man of Steel stuff. It'll be a trip back to the scout ship. And there have been some rumors also that in addition to Jonathan Kent and Kevin Costner getting a chance to return, that when he goes back to the scout ship, he's also going to get another conversation with the hologram version of his father, Jor-El, which would be Russell Crowe. I don't think that's been confirmed in a way that like things are confirmed, but I think that that's pretty well understood by most people who have been tracking what Zack is adding to the cut. So I hope I'm not spoiling much of anything here. But again, it's not confirmed, but I think Russell Crowe is going to get a shot to bring Superman back. And these are the types of conversations that I think would sort of straighten out the psychology of how Superman probably is going to be feeling coming back to terms with this. Because then there's a moment at the end of the Kent Farm sequence in Justice League where he's essentially just like, I guess I got to get going now. And Lois Lane's like, yeah, they really do need you. But if he has a lot more time to come to terms with that fact, it's almost like it's back to the sort of Man of Steel debate of, do I have to be this hero? Am I obligated to be this person because I have these powers? He may almost have to come to terms with that all over again. And I could see a Jonathan Kent conversation, some sort of great dialogue that Chris Terrio wrote and gives to Kevin Costner that says like, yeah, you've gone through this entire journey and this is where you are right now. And now you're at a point where this League needs you kind of thing. And so go be their hero. And we've said this in every video. It's the difference between 2 hours and 4 hours.
Yeah.
You have this opportunity to let these characters breathe and to develop them as people and not just hastily rush from Heroes Park right to the cornfield. He's got to go on this journey kind of thing. And part of it is getting the black suit, and the black suit is going to be really significant. And if Zack keeps showing the black and silver suit, it's probably because it's for a reason. Like, I think that there's something significant to the fact that he's choosing it and the fact that he's ending up in it. We know he's going to be wearing it while he fights the final battle against Steppenwolf. And then I do kind of want to see, and I've said this in other videos, like I'm really excited to see the scenes that happen after the final fight, because I think he's going to be in red and blue by the time all is said and done.
So let's talk about the black suit a little bit. So what exactly is the significance of the black suit for those who might not know?
It's a reference to a storyline in the comics when Superman did die at the hands of Doomsday. And there was a moment when multiple Supermen came back and they all had different costumes and different. One Superman had really long hair and they were black and silver. And they were meant to represent different feelings and emotions that Superman was going through at the time, and it turned out that only one of them was truly the real Superman and the other one were somewhat imposters. It's not the most concrete example, but it's very visually recognizable. It's absolutely something that's tied to his history. The blue and red, the traditional blue and red, is meant to stand for that sort of hope and optimism that people relate to Superman. And so when he's in the black and silver, it's supposed to represent a time where he is filled with uncertainty, trying to figure his way back from this extreme sacrifice.
Wow, character depth. That sounds exciting.
Can you imagine?
Curious myself.
Superman will be in the black and silver suit in the final battle. We've seen that shot in the trailer where he punches Steppenwolf, which is way better than the Steppenwolf punch that we saw in Josstice League with
Yes.
the Batman reaction shot that's Sean's favorite. So what are your theories for what happens in the final battle? Do you have any related to Superman specifically?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I do think that he'll get a more heroic opportunity to show up at a time when the League probably looks like they're overpowered. He shows up really quickly in Justice League, and it isn't at a time when, like, you can have a great hero moment, you know, where he shows up and it's this is the point where the League, it looks like they're about to lose the battle kind of thing, and that Superman shows up at the exact right time. I think that will happen again. But I think you're going to get a lot more the League versus Steppenwolf or the League versus Parademons. I think you're going to get a lot more of, like, somewhere in there, the Flash is going to have to sort of figure out how to use the Speed Force. But I don't know if that's and time travels. Yeah, so all of this stuff is going to be elongated. Now, anytime that Zack got to the point in the trailers where the Speed Force was relevant, and he was breaking down the trailer this past week, he was super hesitant to go into any details. And he really said,
I wonder why.
Yeah, I want you to see this in the movie. And so I think that he's got some really big things planned for that final battle. And again, we've said this in a few of the other videos, like, when we get to the final, like, the entire League against Steppenwolf, Zack's not going to blow the opportunity to use all of their powers and all of their skill sets choreographed to the point, you know, where they're needed to be against Steppenwolf. And it's almost like when you brought Wonder Woman into the fight against Doomsday in BVS. Like, they all had significant things to do, and they almost wouldn't have overcome if not for that. And so, yeah, it's going to be much longer. It's going to be more intricate. I assume it's going to be well choreographed.
It'll probably
I don't
feel
think Superman's
earned,
going to show,
which would be nice.
100%, yes. And I don't think Superman's going to show up until he's absolutely needed. And again, the Speed Force and time travel. Like, there's gonna be a lot more things part of it, but a lot more things that are implemented into it.
I want to really quickly go back to Superman's resurrection in Heroes Park really quick, because there's been a lot of comments in the Flash video of people yelling at us for a hot take that we had, perhaps. I think it was mainly me, so I'll take the blame for it. But the shot in Heroes Park where Flash goes by and Superman kind of looks at him, and then it cuts back to the Flash and he's got like this awkward look on his face. A lot of people really liked that, and I said that I did not like that, and I think you agreed with me. But I want to clarify, the reason that I don't like it is because it felt really, really cheesy in the moment, and that's why I didn't like it. So I think all of this, again, goes back to execution, and I think you're right. I think what Zack has planned for the Flash and the Speed Force and how Superman interacts with that is going to be really interesting. I just don't think it was in Justice League the way that we saw it.
Yeah, and also, it's okay for us to not like a few things that Zack tries to do. He's going to have a 4-hour cut of the movie. I'm not going to want to, inject all of it directly into my veins. Like, if it's really cool, great. But if he maintains a look of Superman sort of giving Flash the side eye, and it comes across as clunky or cheesy, fine. Then it comes across as clunky and cheesy, but I'm sure the rest of it's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
That I'm standing by you on that one. I think that it looks kind of wonky. Now, even something as silly as the fact that the way that that's lit, we know that the Heroes Park fight is bathed in light, and maybe it's going to look different the way that Zack approaches it, and maybe it just won't come across as so weird and
Yeah.
cheesy. Cheesy is the right way to put it. So if it plays differently in the moment, cool. Then I'm okay with, in a way that I sort of say that the punch and the dodge looks cool. And if Zack figures out a way to do it so that it looks really cool, then I'm on board.
So we know that Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to kind of redeem Superman's arc a little bit. So where do you think we go from here?
It's really interesting because Zack has said something that fans are really holding on to this week, which is they are treating the cut that's going to HBO Max the same way that they would have in 2017, which kind of means that when we get to the end of it, he thinks that it's going to be teasing out sequels or paths for the story to go to. I do think we're going to get to a point at the end of Justice League where the League is now in a place where it can come together anytime that the threat is needed. We've been putting a lot of emphasis on the fact that it sounds like Ben Affleck and Batman have the potential to live again on HBO Max. I really do think Henry's going to get another chance. I think that DC is going to want to continue Superman in some way, shape, or form. He's just too valuable of a character to leave off the table. And
Henry
Superman
said that he
feels
wants
like,
to do it too, right?
Oh, 100%. He loves playing the character, and he's still of the age and still in tremendous shape, and it's a great opportunity for him to continue doing it. I feel like Henry and Superman is the type of character that they deserve the big screen. And I don't mean that as a slight to Ben if he gets to do Batman on HBO Max, but currently they're in a situation where Ben may potentially show up in the Flash movie. Robert Pattinson is playing Batman on the big screen, and maybe Ben just needs a little bit of freedom on HBO Max to do a harder, edgier Batman, and that would fit on the cable stream. But Superman, in particular, if you're going to do a Superman story, I really do think it should be a movie, and I think it should be on the big screen. Give him the opportunity to properly soar the way that Zack has been meaning for him to do ever since he got introduced in Man of Steel. And so, while I don't know that Zack would be the one to potentially direct it, I think by the time he gets to this third story, his Superman arc will have concluded, kind of thing. Like, the things that he wants to do with the character probably are done.
I was going to say that final shot in the montage, which we know is Zack's, that seems like the end of something to me.
Totally agree. And with all due respect to Zack, like, I think it's okay to take Superman now and hand them over to another filmmaker. I would love to see where someone else goes with the character and plays around with Henry. And DC has almost got to the point, too, where things don't have to be in canon. They don't have to all be connected, you know? Like, Wonder Woman's almost branched out in a different direction. Aquaman with Jason Momoa has gone in a different direction. We have a different Batman. The Flash could reset everything with its spin on Flashpoint. You could have Henry being able to play Superman in a wildly different film that doesn't have to go in any sort of way. Or he could get brought into that Shazam Black Adam subset of the universe as well, too, and that could be a way to use Henry. So I don't think his days as Superman are done. I don't necessarily know if Zack is going to continue to do it, but some people have also been theorizing that if a little bit of time passes, if the Snyder Cut does really well on HBO Max, if they do decide that, yes, we're going to put another Justice League movie together because we have all these characters now, that Zack will be the one who comes back together to sort of do a second Justice League film in the way that Joss Whedon did Avengers and then sort of disappeared and then came back for Age of Ultron. Not to take on the name of Joss, but over on Marvel, it worked. Sorry, DC fans. The stuff he did over there seemed to play out okay. I could see Zack being that guy who maybe comes back over and does some stuff for a second Justice League. But all of this is just speculation. We got to see where it all goes from here.
Guess I'll just have to trust you.
Those are all the ways that we expect Superman to be different when HBO Max rolls around. With their version of the Snyder Cut, we will be back with a few more character breakdowns. We've heard your calls for some additional characters outside the League, and we're going to dive into how they will be different. In the meantime, make sure that you keep it here on CinemaBlend for all of your Snyder Cut needs as we work our way to 2021. While you are here, make sure you go down and hit subscribe and turn on your notifications, hit the comments, and let us know what you thought of this week's video, and we will see you back here on CinemaBlend very soon.